In 1903, King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra visited Galway, a city in the west of Ireland whose streets were named after many British royals and dignitaries.
However, they received a mixed response as attitudes to the crown were beginning to change.
Hi, I'm Yasmin,
Agus Misha.
and we want to take you on a journey and tell you about Galway's involvement in the 1916 Rising.
Beidir go is lága cúpla scéal an éirí a gan na Gaillimh ach níl is ag go leor daoine faoi céir de bhí pleanáilte a gcathair na Gaillimh ar seachtain na Gáilta.
For over 100 years, there were several uprisings against Britain in hopes of reintroducing Home Rule, a domestic parliament, which was the promise that was acceptable to the majority of Irish people.
I anna ní ag tríd bunio a lug forsa I gunne a chuirta stacuiltas Lucas trí féad in Moscow.
By November of that year, the Irish Volunteers were officially founded in Dublin, with a local recruitment meeting being held in Galway City's Town Hall the following week. That same year, the Gaelic League's National Convention took place in the same town hall, where a number of key figures in Irish history were photographed at the event, including Pádraig Pearse, who had a cottage in Connemara and was to become the president of the Provisional Government in 1916, as well as being the author of the Irish Proclamation, which he read outside Dublin's GPO.
Douglas Hyde, who would later become Ireland's first president.
Eamon de Valera, another future Irish president.
And proclamation signatures Sean McDermott and Eamon Ceannt, who would also be executed along with Pearse at the end of the Rising.
Within months, thousands of volunteers were in training around the county of Galway. However, with the outbreak of World War I, the promise of Home Rule was put on hold, and many men and women went to fight in the war.
The Scots na Hologi rá hart ultimí le ball over na bhína cníte caird.
The Irish Republican Brotherhood secured key positions in the smaller faction, gaining control of the Irish Volunteers and edging them further towards their goal of an independent Irish Republic.
In August 1915, a group of Rosmuc volunteers travelled to Dublin for the funeral of Fenian activist Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa, where Pádraig Pearse gave his famous graveside speech.
A speech that he wrote and practiced to perfection in his Connemara cottage in the days leading up to that funeral. This speech was seen as a call to arms for the Irish uprising.
On Easter Monday, April 24th, 1916, the General Post Office in Dublin city centre was seized by Republican forces along with other key buildings in the city.
At least 3 Galway people were in the GPO during the Rising. Brian Joyce of Inisheer, Maura O'Kelly of Carraroe, and Patrick Murray of Dunmore.
Galway native Eamon Ceannt, who was a master uilleann piper, having even played the bagpipes for the Pope in Rome in 1908, commanded the South Dublin Union during the Rising.
He was later one of the 15 leaders of the rebellion, who was executed within weeks after the 1916 Rising.
Báthraigh siad anam an stáisiún Train na Gaillimh agus Páirce Baile Haclia ag gradam Eamon Ceannt.
Returning to Easter week 1916, outside of Dublin, the rebels were active in Wexford, Cork and Meath, where Tuam native RIC Constable James Cleary was killed.
However, in County Galway there were 500 to 700 volunteers, led by Liam Mellows, including 50 women from Cumman who took part in the Rising that week, attacking various barracks in the county.
Well, Liam Mellows came to Galway in March of 1915. He was 21 years of age. When he led the Rising, he was 22. He's a young man, inoffensive looking. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. His one vice, perhaps, is playing the fiddle. He is a man much like Pádraig Pearse. He has one brother who is his closest friend, Barney. He's close to his mother, Sarah, and he is determined to foment rebellion here in the West.
With British forces closing in on the Galway rebels and word coming west of the defeat of the rebels in Dublin, the rebels were disbanded in the early hours of Saturday, April 29th by a very reluctant Liam Mellows.
I think the failure of the Galway Rising had a devastating effect on him psychologically and personally. and might have hardened his desire to give his life for Ireland regardless.
Nó deile do Liam Mellows a freisin an bara chathair agus an Plymouth áitiúil angaithe ina gradach.
Mellows, who fought for Irish independence from British rule, was executed later by his own people, the Irish Free State, in 1922 during the Irish Civil War. What happened in Galway County during the Rising has been well documented, but little is known about George Nichol's plans to capture 7 prominent buildings in the city and kidnap 2 prominent businessmen to force the RIC to abandon their barracks in Eglinton Street.
Whether they'd have been capable of doing this is another question, but certainly that was one of the ideas they had proposed. But really, the strength of the volunteers is in the country and in Castlegar here in the border of the city. And it was going to be the countrymen coming into the town that would have been the muscle, if you like, for them to establish themselves here in Easter week. There's 2 newspapers in Galway, the Connacht Tribune, edited by Thomas Kenny, which was set up in 1909 to support John Redmond and the Irish Parliamentary Party, and the Galway Express, which was a unionist paper with the considerable Protestant readership under a man called Fisher. Both of them were unguarded in their contempt for the volunteers in the countryside. They called them fools, cowards, peasants. The Tuam Herald, actually, in the largest town in North Galway, called them degenerates. The Connacht Tribune published a stop press 1-page edition on the Wednesday of Easter week, where they condemned utterly the Rising as madness and as folly and as murderous. And there's no real limit to the use of vulgar language to show how contemptuous they were of what the rebels were actually trying to achieve.
The second largest group of people arrested following the Rising was in Galway, where nationally 3,100 people were arrested with 2,500 deported to prisons in Britain. 332 of the 1,800 Republican prisoners in Frunguk were from Galway. The Rising was followed by a war of independence and a civil war in Ireland, where many more lives were lost on top of the 485 lives lost during the Easter Rising.
Mar sin má bhí ceannairí an éirí le teach go dtí an látha an aniu an mbeadh siad gródú as an láisiú.
I think they would be very disappointed the way situations are. But the only thing, consolation in that matter would be the fact that at least we're governed by ourselves. If we make a mess of it, it's ourselves making a mess of it. It isn't some outside power.
I think they'd be concerned by what's going on. I think we've lost a lot of the kind of the foundation stones of a republic. I think that we've bought into a lot of commercialism and capitalism, and I think a lot of them might be turning in their graves.
I think they'd be fairly happy with the way Ireland is at the moment, but I think that there probably wouldn't be ideally what they'd want. There'd be some improvements, but I think generally they'd be happy on the world scale where Ireland sits. Things are looking all right here.
Taking all those views into account, we feel that this is a more appropriate proclamation for 2016.
Public na Héireann.
We, the children of the Irish Republic, to the people of Ireland.
100 años han pasado desde la proclamación de 1916.
Nous avons changé pour le mieux. We are having in Starkless land geworden.
Úscola suúta mé an gansa gunole mutamelia kansana of unbila bicame.
Rochai Jai Kwangyang Tikid was weapon.
Nílar gohanna choláidir sa mílean iad a bheith.
For those who were once discriminated, we continue to do so to others.
No debemos dejar que otros confunden nuestra neutralidad para la debilidad.
Nous, la enfants de l'Iran, voulons une nation libre de discrimination, de l'égalité, des droits, en belief religious gratuit. To be a place where we can thrive and feel accepted, place of opportunity, not squandered or greed.
Alcon gucan mias nine telopsi, falcon naita talistan luonantan.
Na nam Kong Dec Chow Ireland.
Misha French Malloy.
Luke Farn.
Yasmin Chang.
Caleb Fitzgerald. Sean Murray.
Grace Hartman.
Nisha Walsh.